All right. If you don't know where you are going, any road will take you there. All right. So someone told me that came from the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. Okay, let me see. Can you see me okay? I'm in my car and the sun is doing its thing. All right. So welcome. My bows and bow ties. This is the Black Opinionated woman, also known as Bo. So as you know, I am sitting in a car at my daughter's practice. So what time is it? It's 5:17. From here, I've got to drop my daughter off, go grocery shopping, and then get myself together. I'm just going to go like this. To a neighbor's house, she got promoted, so she's having a few of the ladies over for drinks and a little smorgasbord of goodies. It starts at 7. Of course, I'm going to be tacky and late, but look, I got to take care of things. But what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about where are we going, blackity blacks. Before I get into it, let me just say, look, go ahead and hit that like button. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. I all the way would appreciate it. I know this is a really tough. I'm trying to see if I can get into a better angle here because of the glare. All right, so look. I talk about 3 things: black women, black culture, and anything related to middle age, right? You guys have heard this before for those of you who've been to my channel. But for those of you who haven't, those are things that I like to talk about. And when I talk about things related to middle age, I start trying to talk about other things that, like, you start, like, questioning things like what's going on with my body, what's going on in my relationship, what's going on with my career, what's going on with my children and child rearing. You start questioning your mortality. All those things. And for most of us normal people, you start questioning purpose and all these other things. So anyway, originally when I was going to get on, I was going to talk about, I have a whole bunch of stickies. What was it? Womanhood does not include trans women. I was going to put something really shady up there as a title, but then I decided, as I was flipping through my notebook of good, can you guys see me? Sorry about that. As I was flipping through my notebook, I ran across that quote that I haven't, I had it taped inside of my little notebook. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But I ran across a sticky of a podcast I've done. And I thought this would be a really good conversation to have. I say this, I'm like hot and cold. I swear I'm going through the change. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I'm like hot and cold at the same time. I don't know. You're gonna have to just leave me alone. Let me just get through it, okay? I'm working it out. Maybe if I put this down and some of this, Lord Jesus, like what is going on? I'm so sorry that this is so dysfunctional. I should just start this all over. All right, so look, I'm probably gonna just cut the beginning of this out anyway. So look. All right, so what do I really want to talk about? I found my old sticky. It was called, "What Does Protest Look Like?" Now, I want you to stick with me for a second. Over the last year or so, we went through a lot, okay? Probably the last 2 years. We went through the George Floyd on-camera murder. We've gone through numerous young black male kids being snuffed out. Ahmaud Marbury. I can't talk today. We've got trans women taking over sports. We've got crazy elections. We've got a lot of things. But I want to lend a level of specificity. Now, for those of you who've heard my podcast before, this is not going to be new. But I'm going to touch on this for a second. I'm going to talk about protests for a second. And I'm going to try to round this back up. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? So now look. We're going to talk about protests for a second. I ran into this. It made me think about this years ago when I was coming off of the whole being home from the pandemic. And I had a co-worker who happened to be white made the comment about protest. He said that he was sick and tired of all this protesting and it's just too much and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, I find that to be really interesting. He's like, well, it's just, people are, it's just so violent and people are burning things and I'm just tired of hearing about it. I was like, oh, are you? Because see, I think you have the luxury of saying something like that, right? You have the luxury of saying, I'm sick and tired. I said, because see, you get into this expensive car that you have. We were sitting in his car. We had just returned from lunch. That does sound shady. I'm sitting in some man's car returning from lunch. But no, so we were sitting in his car returning from lunch, and we were just catching up. We hadn't seen him in a while. It was, a thing. So we're just checking in. Older gentleman, and he basically was giving me the thing. So I said, look, you have the luxury of getting in this really nice car and going home to your wonderful home. I said, and you got people out here who are angry and they're tired and they're struggling. That's not to say that other races aren't going through it, but I'm speaking specifically for Black people. So I listened to him talk, and I gave him my ideas of what I thought protest was. So I said, protest looks like a lot of things. It looks like marching. It looks like rioting. It looks like looting. It looks like legislation. It looks like, or legislation reform, I'm sorry. It looks like refraining from a service or boycott. It looks like all those things. And those are just mere examples of how people want to show their distaste, their distrust, their dislike for something. Okay? I said, the thing is, what tickles me about this is that people presume their way of protest is right. Now, let me just say for the record, my protest does not look like looting. It does not look like violence. And as we look back in history, you can use religion if you want. You can just look in the historical context of a lot of things. There has been violence and war and all these things. I'm not claiming anything's right or wrong. What I am saying is they're all forms of protest. Okay? I'm just saying my protest does not look like looting and burning and the such. But I said, do you know why people are looting? Do you know why they're rioting? And by the way, it's not just the Black people who are looting and rioting. There were other actors that were doing such things. But we like to pin it on the blacks. And so I was explaining why people would want to riot and to loot. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that's what I would do. But when you're angry and you feel like you have no power, you have no say, you have no voice, in those moments, it doesn't really matter. You're like, F this ish up, right? It's not mine anyway. It doesn't matter how logically they're thinking. When you are so angry, for example, they'll say, why would you burn down something that's in your community? And I'm like, do you understand that people who are in certain communities don't feel like the stuff is theirs anyway? They're discriminated anyway when they walk in. So they're kind of like, we're not losing anything anyway. We're already destitute. What's one more thing? I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it is. But I'm like, do you know what the purpose is for why people riot and march and these things? And he got quiet. I'm like, it's meant to disrupt. It's meant to make people feel uncomfortable. I hope you guys can see me. And look, if you like what I'm saying, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Stop playing. Go ahead and just like it. Just go ahead and like it. Go all the way like it. Just like it. And just watch this all the way through. See all my videos all the way through. Just go ahead. Just line them up and watch them all the way through. And leave some comments and send these to your friends and your aunties and your cousins and your grandmoms, grandmothers and your children, older ones. But anyway, I said, when people are rioting, they're rioting because they want to disrupt. See, when you riot and when you loot and you want to disrupt. When you're people, even down to like violence, right? It's meant to be a disruption. It's meant to get your attention. So I said, when there was this sustained rioting and looting and protesting, or forms of protesting, marching, it was meant to be a disruption to stop the status quo. So then I was talking about, in order for change to happen, you have to soften the masses. Some people say the anger has to reach critical mass. I don't know. I think the answer is somewhere in between. I don't know. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, right? I think that the masses have to be conditioned to the point where when the pain is deep enough, when the sorrow is deep enough, you're going to be required to change, whether it's good or bad. So when there is protest and rioting and looting and marching and legislation reform and all kinds of stuff and yelling from the rooftops, right? It's meant to be disruption. It's meant to call attention to something. So this is the thing, and I'm going to try to wrap this up. I think in this woke age that we're dealing with, the age of the conscious, the so-called conscious, I think what's happening is we're seeing a lot of performativity, like performative allyship. And at first I was kind of like irritated about it, but then I recognized that, there is something to be said for performing the acts of allyship. For one, when you are performing acts of allyship, you're getting in the habit of being an ally, right? It's almost as if you do it enough, it becomes a part of the thread, and maybe people will start to like see it and feel it and learn it, and it becomes a part of the culture, right? So maybe you have to perform the acts until it becomes a part of our culture. I don't know. But I'm like, a lot of people will like to look at all of the stuff that's happening from a very pure standpoint, and that's one way of looking at it too. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. So where was I going with all this? If you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there. I say this to say, with all of this protest, we got marching, we got looting, we got rioting, we got legislation reform, we've got boycotting, we've got all these things happening. But I still am not quite sure what is the ultimate plan. Now, let me say, some people will say it's reparations. And now let me tell you, I am one of those people who believes that we are due, that black people who are descendants from the slaves here, not elsewhere, here, black Americans who are descendants of slaves are owed reparations. I also think they're never going to happen. It's not going to happen. I think we have to get into this mindset that we have to work to take care of ourselves. We can go into all of the discussions on whether or not who likes us, who doesn't like us. Look, we already know that there are large communities who just do not believe in black people. They don't like black people. They think that we're thieves and stupid and all these other things, okay? That's not what this conversation is. What I'm saying is we did all this planning and marching and looting and violence and we were trying to elect people and keep people in office, and all of those things are great, but we need grassroots change. I think that's where the real change comes from. Not waiting for a handout in reparations. But I don't think that the community knows where they're going. So right now, any protest, any march, any riot will do, right? Because I don't think we know where we're going. What are we really trying to accomplish? We can't even get black men and black women to get along. We've got women out here talking about, I think, who was it? I didn't even see it. I heard about the one person wanting to get rid of black babies. And we've got the whole manosphere who's just angry. They're basically, in my opinion, let me say this again. In my opinion, they are basically a hate group. You have black men who hate themselves and black women so much that they put stock in white people as if to say, like, that's the standard. I'm like, white people are humans just like we're humans. So are the Asians and the Latinas and such. We're all jacked up. And I don't know if any of you know this, but we're all messed up. We're all the way messed up. But we're putting stock in things that don't matter. We're literally having these fruitless conversations. They're so non-productive. I don't hear any. This is why I don't like to have it on my channel, because I can't feed my spirit with the shenanigans. We don't talk about anything meaningful. We don't talk about anything productive. We don't have a plan. What we want to do is complain about how we're so wrong and not getting the poon and the peen. So if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a purpose, if you don't know where you're going, Any road you take is going to take you there because you don't know where you're going anyway. So we do all this rioting and protesting and looting and violence and everything like that. But anyway, after all of that, I think even with all of the money that I think people are trying to pour into Black women, thank you, by the way, what is our ultimate goal? I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. But I do see Black men are being cut out. And I understand why people are cutting out Black men, right? Because of shenanigans. Like the things that they want to talk about, I'm like, oh my gosh. Shenanigans. You got some talented men out there, but I just feel like they're so misguided. But anyway, those are my thoughts while I'm sitting in the car. I had all kinds of other topics I wanted to talk about, but I just got caught up. I saw that quote and I stopped. I'm like, I don't want to talk about trans women right now. Although I always do. I mean, I don't know what it is, why I find the trans topic so fascinating. I think it's because it's just a bunch of troubled people. Like, I feel compassion, and yet I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm like really torn on it. So if anybody wants to be mad about what I said, you're allowed to be mad. It's all right. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So look, go ahead and subscribe. You know you want to. All right, you guys, leave me a comment. Hopefully you enjoyed it. When I'm ready, I gotta load up my outro when I'm using this this app here, because I gotta figure out how to get my my little outro going. So I guess I'm just gonna do a hard cut. All right, I'm out.